Hey, we have an awesome episode today. Today we have Arushi Gandhi from Ressl.ai. Excited to have you on, Arushi. I think you're one of the innovators in the industry. There's some cool things coming out with Ressl and what you're doing in the Salesforce ecosystem. So I'm pumped to have you on today.
Yeah, hi John. Really glad to have met you over the last couple weeks and really glad to be on the podcast. Um, yeah, let's get started. What would you like?
Awesome. And just to kind of set the stage, so can you tell me a little bit about your background, kind of how you came into the Salesforce ecosystem and how that all came about?
Yeah, sure. So I am a computer science student. I started my career into startups and entrepreneurship as a full stack developer. Yeah, so for many years, I just worked as an engineer, as a first hire founding engineer of sorts at a bunch of early stage startups. And I realized that what I really like doing is like talking to customers, trying to understand prompt statements, etc. So then just moved towards the business side, and I was often the first sales hire, first business hire at a bunch of early stage startups. Then I had a brief stint at Microsoft, which is where I really realized that I want to start up for myself and not work at a corporate. So then after that, I spent a year and a half building a CRM company myself called Fund Inc. And we were building system of record, deal flow management, and portfolio management systems for venture capital and private equity firms. So I did that for about a year and a half as a solo founder, and I realized that the most of building a CRM company is just professional services, as in customizing and implementing the CRM for different customer requirements. That's when I got into the Salesforce ecosystem, and what brings me to what I'm building now at Ressl.ai. And yeah, I'll explain that, but that's basically my background.
Awesome. Yeah, I got a computer science degree as well, but back in the day, it was like Ada and like hex code and like that's like when Java came about and stuff. So I remember those days getting really into like the software development and programming and integration. So what interested you specifically about Salesforce versus like other technologies, especially what you're doing with Ressl? What made you kind of get interested in the Salesforce side of things?
So I think when I was building the CRM company, right, it was called Funding. Um, I would go to a lot of customers and try to tell them that, hey, I've built this like revolutionary product. It'll help you solve your deal flow management, pipeline issues, etc. And a lot of them would already be using Salesforce, which was always very counterintuitive to me because Salesforce is a sales CRM, or at least that's what I thought. Yet a venture capital firm is using it for the deal flow management and portfolio management. It just seemed really odd to me. And then if I would go and tell them that, hey, you're supposed to like plug out this system and plug me in, that was an instant no. And then I thought about it. I was like, okay, if Salesforce has been so sticky for organizations to the extent where even if it's not made for the use cases, then making it work for their use case, there must be something here. So I looked into it deeper, and at the base of it, what I realized is Salesforce is not a SaaS. It's a SaaS builder. You can use Salesforce to build the type of SaaS that you want in your organization for your needs. And that level of customizability is insane, and it opens up so many use cases. I don't need to sit and write React code if I want to serve venture capital clientele. I can just customize Salesforce. I can build templates and workflows and flows and Apex and triggers on top and make Salesforce work for them better than an average client. So sorry, average ERP implementation firm who would not have context of the industry. So that's how I got into it, and that's how I understood. Oh, Salesforce is a huge ecosystem. And then, yeah, after that, did some consulting, worked as an intern for a while, learned a lot about the ecosystem, and here we are.
That's awesome. Yeah, like, I could tell you have an entrepreneurial spirit as well within you. And then, so what was kind of the genesis, kind of the formation of Ressl AI, and how did that come about?
Yeah, so I think I had a really tough time scaling that company, the previous company, and about a year and a half, I decided to shut it down, and I was like, I want to start afresh. I want to be in this space because I understand it really well, and I've been doing it for a while, but I want to structure it differently. So I joined this accelerator program called Entrepreneur First, which is very similar to Y Combinator. And yeah, I met my now co-founder Abhishek there. The two of us sat down and I was like, hey, I understand the CRM and CRM implementation space. You understand the artificial intelligence and AI agent space. Let's sit down, let's see what else is there. So we just had this really broad theme to start off with, where we were like, we're going to use AI agents to uh, disrupt IT services. And with that, we got into Salesforce, particularly Sales Cloud. We got some projects just to do completely manually from people in Europe. We executed that and we realized, oh, all of Salesforce is just metadata. All of it is encoded in XML files. And what AI is good at today is generating code. LLMs can write code really well. So, can we potentially take a requirement, give it to the LLM, do some engineering on top of the LLM, and output XML? And the rest is history. We've now moved to San Francisco as well. So, yeah, that's how we got into this.
That's awesome. And there's a lot of AI talk. There's a lot of AI things out there. A lot of people are doing different things. Even Salesforce is doing Agent Force and things like that. So there's a lot of different tools and apps and products out there. So from the perspective of Ressl.ai, how does Ressl.ai help people, and what does it do, and specifically who does it help in terms of solutions?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think if you look at historically how Salesforce as a ecosystem has started, right? They came up with this. Every enterprise SaaS, for that matter, lives because of its ecosystem. They'll have whole large number of partners who are both resellers and implementation agencies. So about 10, 15 years ago, I wouldn't even say 15, 10 years ago, it was a great space to be because there was a lot of demand for it, but there wasn't that much supply. So a lot of people got into it. They were basically Salesforce consultants, and then they served end customers. They created their own verticals and niches, and they did a really good job. People were really happy. Now, over time, as with any enterprise SaaS company, the Salesforce itself got really bloated and really complicated. A lot of people came into the ecosystem. Salesforce also marketed it so much, right? They got people to say that Salesforce career is the end all and it's this great thing. So many people came into it. A lot of, unfortunately, there was a race to the bottom in terms of pricing also. So a lot of low quality work was also done. So now the problem is that Salesforce implementation in general has become a low NPS market for 80% of consultants, I would say. There are obviously some really good consultancies out there, but some of them just go in, they mess up the system. People are spending a lot of money on Salesforce licenses. They're spending 2 to 3 times on Salesforce consultants. And at the end of the day, they're still not happy. The NPS of their interaction with implementation partner as well as the system has become really low. So yeah, I think simply put, that's the problem we're solving. We're trying to build an AI-led implementation agency where we can reduce the cost of implementation so that people are not spending so much money. But at the same time, what is really important is the quality and the speed of implementation. We refuse to believe that, 3 years from now, with all of this coding co-pilots, it's still going to take 6 to 12 months to set up a system. It's still going to take hundreds of thousands of dollars to set up a system. So yeah, we're solving for large turnaround times, large amounts of money, and bad quality implementations.
And that's a good topic. I think you touched on something that is interesting right now going on in the industry, especially with AI. Um, and you touched on it a little bit, but what are some of the misconceptions people in the ecosystem you feel have about AI and its role in how to apply it to Salesforce and what they think is going to happen versus what truly is happening?
I think the misconception is a lot because of the firms ourselves. Like Like not just Salesforce, like I am a mismarketer myself. I know every AI company out there promises the world and doesn't often deliver. And that's just how it is with every technology shift. You have to market and you have to sell and you have to get people to like the technology before the technology is really even there. Unfortunately, that has resulted in a lot of distrust, like especially if we go around San Francisco, right? This was a huge change from Bangalore, where in Bangalore there are pockets where people talk about AI. Everywhere here you hear AI, artificial agents. So automatically people expect this magical wand that they can just wave around and their workflows just happen without having to like spend time. So yeah, the biggest misconception is that people have been thinking that AI can do things n- despite being non-deterministic, can do 100% of the things with 100% accuracy. That's simply not true. I would say it's a fault of the AI builders ourselves. And the second thing is that um, it's still it's still not reached its inflection point. Like, you know how voice agents have reached somewhat of an inflection point. You'll see some really good quality voice agents out there. Some similar things have yet to come with things like browser agents, like Operator, for example, or things like coding agents, Devin, Ressl, bunch of other companies out there, because it just requires a lot more effort and time and the models to get better to really reach those inflection points. So and more importantly, your data, like that's the most important thing out there. You need to Data today is so siloed across large companies. It's impossible for me to build an agent that can go and pick all of the context from the right places, because even humans don't know where it is. So yeah, broadly three things.
And when you mentioned Ressl again, I typically at the beginning always ask where the names come from the apps, and people like Kizzy Consulting with Sanjeet and those kind of things. To go back to that, how did the name of Ressl.ai come about?
I really wish I had a really fancy story for you, but I don't. So when my co-partner and I started, we just wanted to put up like a landing page to quickly iterate through ideas and hunches. And he had a free domain lying around from one of his previous attempts at starting up, and we used that. But now if anybody asks, we tell them, hey, we're Wrestle AI, we're wrestling with your Salesforce troubles.
That's awesome. That's perfect. That's awesome. Um, that's a good story. And so back to like Salesforce admins, there's a lot of talk, like you mentioned, about Salesforce admins, developers, what AI means, where the thing is, where things are going in the Salesforce ecosystem. Um, from your perspective, what should Salesforce admins in particular be thinking about with how to leverage AI? Is it going to replace what they do? Maybe not to go down too much into that, but like what should Salesforce admins be thinking about as it relates to AI, how to leverage it? Should they be learning it? And what do you feel Salesforce admin should be thinking about right now?
Yeah. To answer your question on whether they should be leveraging AI, absolutely. Like the next revolution or age is not going to leapfrog whole careers. It's just going to leapfrog the careers where people aren't using AI to like upskill themselves. But yeah, answering what is Salesforce admin of the future going to look like? So if I draw an analogy with like coding, right? It's always gone from less abstraction, low level to higher levels of abstraction. We had assembly language, we had C, then we had Python, and now we have things like Cursor where you can just prompt. It's always going to be that. You're always going to have a higher level of abstraction. In Salesforce, you had to write Apex. Then it came Flows, which was no code. Obviously, you'll have a no code interface or almost like a natural language interface where you put your requirements. So I think that's the natural evolution that I see. Are the number of jobs needed going to decrease? Probably, right? Like if one person can do the same amount of tasks with a lot more efficiency, less amount of hours, I think there are lesser jobs. But what this also does is increase accessibility. Imagine if as a startup, I would never imagine buying Salesforce, right? It's out of my league. I can't afford it. But if I could afford the licenses and if I knew that the cost of setting it up and maintaining it is not going to be as expensive, then it'll reduce and it'll increase my need for an admin. So excessive with higher with lesser friction in technology, accessibility always increases. So I think the future of Salesforce admins is going to be a lot more focused on strategic understanding of businesses. That never goes away, right? And AI can't understand what needs to be implemented. So that's always going to be there. The delivery of the implementation will look different. I don't think it will continue to be writing Apex, writing making flows. I think it will be a lot more natural language focused, and it'll increase accessibility. There'll be a lot more niche new use cases that weren't there before. Salesforce was only affordable by like big CPG brands and big tech companies. I think that's going to change. I think Salesforce is going to be a lot more accessible, and just ERP and CRMs in general.
If you were to guess, when do you think the big transition is going to happen? Just like as a guess, like 3 to 5 years? Is it going really quickly and it's going to be like 1 to 2 years? Is it more 7, 10 years until like that massive transformation happens in these roles and with AI? If you were to guess, how far out do you think those changes and impacts are gonna be, or are they here now?
Um, Very interesting question. I really want to take time to think about this. Obviously, I have no one to comment on this, but I think I do think to a large part it'll be faster than we think. Like, think about cloud, right? Like nobody thought anything about it, and then suddenly it was everywhere. It was all pervasive. So I think it's going to be something similar. AI is everywhere. I do think we're still not reached the tipping point of it being very actively useful, but I don't think that's more than 18 months away. Like I know it, right? I build AI applications. When I was doing this 4 months ago, our agent was using 4.0. Today, our agent uses a combination of DeepSeek, Claude 3.7, as well as like the O1, O3 models. We can see the difference with every 3 months new models are coming out there, and now we can like, if I may quickly plug, I can do all the things that happen on an object manager using the agent. I would find it very hard to believe that if not me, somebody out there, there are 3 4 other companies trying to do what we're doing as well, who's going to figure this out and build an admin agent which can do the natural language understanding. So yeah, in short, I would say not more than 18 months is what I would
Wow.
say.
Wow. That's interesting. That's really interesting. And then with Ressl, can you kind of describe how it works, to give people a feel of the solution, how it works, and all that side of things?
Yeah, so I think nothing changes for a customer who wants to implement Salesforce. They book a meeting with us. We do a health check of their system. We see where everything is going. Basically, we download their metadata. Internally, our agent analyzes everything and sees what are some things that are breaking, some places for improvement, some new things that can bring in more operational efficiency to the system. And then we give that to the end customer in form of a report. And we tell them that these are some things. They sign off on them. They're like, yeah, this sounds good. And they also give us additional requirements. They'll always have some things at the back of their mind, right? That this is what I've always wanted Salesforce to do. And then internally, we'll look at it, we'll assign it to our agent. So we are the human in the loop constantly. We know how to use our agents to deliver the same end outcome. So yeah, for end customer, nothing changes. They would interface with us just like they would interface with any consulting company, and we would deliver the task internally using these AI agents. So it's sort of a Palantir approach that we're taking here.
Very interesting. I think it's a good also next version of a good next step for AI as well. I know we got a demo of it. I think it's really cool, and I like where you guys are going. So where do you foresee Ressl going in the next as well, going in the next 12, 24, 36 months? Like, I guess what's your vision of where you're taking this?
I think 12 month, our end goal is to be like the agentic Accenture. That's what I tell everyone. Like if Accenture were to start 18 months from now, it wouldn't look like it does today. It wouldn't be this like large 50,000 employee shop. It would be like a 5,000 person shop or a 500-person shop, which is able to do the same work output of a very large IT services company. So we want to be a managed services, IT services provider, a very large scale firm that's able to sit across softwares from your Salesforce to SAP, ServiceNow, and solve internal IT tickets. Obviously, the 12-month goal is to figure out Salesforce, do that really well, expand on more use cases. Today, as I was saying, we can do admin tickets. We also want to tackle developer tickets. We want to tackle more higher context of tickets. So, for example, if a customer gives us a requirement that involves multiple objects, it's very hard for the agent. It's very hard to get a high level of accuracy. So get better at what we're doing is and scale to more clients is our 12-month goal. At the end, by 24 months, we want to very actively start thinking about going cross integrations. So a real Salesforce implementation doesn't just involve Salesforce, right? It also involves Salesforce talking to Marketo, Salesforce talking to HubSpot, Salesforce talking to Gong, both upstream and downstream. So 24 months, we want to focus on that integration layer as well. And then going forward, we want to go cross-platform. So we go from Salesforce to SAP, SAP to ServiceNow, things like that. So broadly, that's the goal.
Awesome. And I know you mentioned you moved into San Francisco, and it's how has that been? I know you're close to Salesforce, and how's that move and change and everything been for you guys in San Francisco?
Oh my God, wonderful. I always say this, I don't think it's that different from Bangalore. I think people probably think it's going to be a huge change, but it's not. Even Bangalore is like super startup-y. Everyone's talking about venture capital. It's very similar here, but the scale of and like level of ambition is so much higher. It's so fun. And you're right, I'm right next to the Salesforce Tower, which was completely unintentional. I can see it every. And that helps, right? Like in Bangalore, I would have to really look to find a Salesforce customer. I can just throw a rock in a random direction, it'll land on a Salesforce customer in San Francisco. So, from a customer development point, it's absolutely insane.
That's awesome. And I know there's like TDX going on, and the Dreamforce has come in there, so it's nice to also not have to travel for those things. Those things are
Yeah.
kind of local as well.
Yeah.
So from the perspective of like a Salesforce architect, do you feel that role will also be possibly more AI driven? I know you mentioned like the discovery that Ressl does in the beginning. You get the reports. Do you think architects will also be, I guess, quote unquote, impacted or changed from a perspective of what they do and how they do their jobs? And what do you foresee the role of like architects in the Salesforce ecosystem moving forward?
Yeah, that's very interesting. A friend of mine, he's the founder of a company called ClueBot, and they're building like AI co-pilots for Salesforce architects. So he's definitely better poised to answer this. But from my perspective, I think first use case that AI got, like back when GPT 3.5 was out, was like planning use cases, right? Like you could give out a bunch of requirements and it would spew out a plan. So I do think that architect a role as such is going to look different as well. But if I'm just trying to think about it, like obviously the business BA side of things is not going. You need to talk to like enterprise, you need to talk to like the super users within each department, try to put that together. Even if you like use AI as like a co-pilot, you still need to do the business analysis. After that, taking those and then converting it into a technical architecture, I find it very hard if AI could completely do that. I think AI would be a co-pilot. Like that's the difference between agent and a co-pilot. It'll be a very good co-pilot, but at the end of the day, the architect is the person who will have to still be in touch uh, with the pulse of the organization to be able to say if a technical plan like this is going to float with them or not. So low level jobs I can see being replaced with an agent, but an architect is is too high a role to completely be taken away from with an AI agent.
That makes sense. I agree as well. Yep.
Yeah. One thing that I think is going to go is the mapping part, like understanding the natural language business requirement and mapping it to a Salesforce feature. I think that's something that AI is going to do very well.
That makes sense. And if you take it from like the perspective of like a small business that uses Salesforce, um, do you think there's a role to play with AI for like a small business, 20 people, 30 people? Do you think they might still be hiring admins full time or leveraging things like Ressl and AI? Or when we get down to the small business level, how do you see that
Yeah.
evolving over time as well?
No, a lot of companies that we speak to are exactly the ICP you mentioned, and AI is already making a change, right? Initially, before like the GPT era, they would go and get an admin, maybe on a part-time basis, like 5-10 hours a week max, and then work with them. Now, really good technical people who are working under the CTO are able to use AI to figure it out themselves because they can just go to ChatGPT, the window, and they can just explain what they want and ChatGPT will give them a bunch of steps. Salesforce has already made like the low code, no code pretty easy to use. So they can just look at like what GPT is prompting them and then with some debugging be able to do their task. And then maybe for like 10 hours a week they can get an admin. So it's already happening. Like AI and ChatGPT has enabled people to become more self-serve and enable them to get Salesforce expertise without needing to hire Salesforce native people. So yeah, I think it's already happening.
That's that's interesting. I guess I didn't realize even that it has gone even that far. Things are moving fast. Like I'm still in the Chat GBT, help me craft an email, like kind of stuff, right? And even that sometimes AI, like you mentioned, the different models they act so different as well.
Yeah.
They'll definitely take some time to perfect things and things like that. So from the perspective of like you mentioned business analysts, it sounds like you don't feel that that role is going to change. Is that one of the areas you see Salesforce admins possibly growing into, especially with their communication skills, and if they're looking for either go developer path, a product owner path, a business analyst path? What's your view on kind of that
Yeah.
side of things of where Salesforce admins could look to be going with their careers?
No, you're so right. Like this is a hill I'm willing to die on. I think that Salesforce business analysts are not going anywhere because organizations don't know what they want. They have absolutely no clue what they're actually looking for, even when they make a huge investment into Salesforce. So business analysts are always going to be there, always going to be required to come inside and understand what to even implement. So yeah, I think that a lot of technical consultants are going to have to shift into more functional roles and then get to really hone their skills on the functional aspect of things really well. Because I think a lot of the technical grunt work AI is going to be able to handle.
That makes sense. I agree as well. I agree as well. And then um, in the near term, like the next 12 months, 24 months, I know you kind of talked about who Ressl is best fit for and who your ICPs and people that are businesses, consultants that are a good fit for Ressl. What is that perfect situation, consultant, partner? Who's a great fit to take a look at Ressl and reach out to you guys?
So I think if there's any functional consultant out there, this can be even within a company or within a consulting shop. They have an understanding of what they want, say what they want from a technical set of hands. Like they just have an idea that I want this flow to be implemented, I want this automation to be created, or this has not been working, this lead has not been converting into opportunity because of this. But I don't want to spend time actually doing the technical grunt work. I just want to outsource it. Then we're a great fit. Like in any case where it's technical grunt work that needs to be done, we're a great fit.
Perfect, perfect. And it's uh Ressl.ai is the domain, the website. So Ressl.ai, correct?
Yes, you're right. That's us.
Awesome. And they can reach out to you there, book a demo, connect with you through there.
Yeah, that's perfect. You'll see a book a demo CTA on my website. So feel free to do that.
Awesome, awesome. It was awesome having you on, Arushi. Enjoy TDX. I couldn't make it this year. I'm sure you'll be talking to a lot of people that are definitely interested in Ressl and networking with all the people down there. I wish I was there. But it was fantastic having you on the podcast today. I think it's very interesting. I think a lot of us are in the ecosystem are still learning things like Ressl and how AI fits in. I think it'll um, and not enlighten, but it'll make people really think a little more about what's coming up, how things might work, and even maybe where their career paths might go as well. So, I great insights, great information. I really enjoyed having you on the podcast today.
Thanks, John. Really liked being here. And thank you so much for 360 Mastermind. It's been super helpful.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Arushi. Talk to you later.
Yep, see you.